All right, Acres of Diamonds audience, welcome to Acres of Diamonds podcast number 13. Did I get the number right, DJ?
Yes, 13 it is.
13 it is, and I'm joined here with co-founder DJ Lagori and special guest Adam Morgan Sr. from Springfield, Mass. And Adam is a retired corrections officer, and now he spends his time doing multiple jobs. Keeps himself very busy, doesn't sit still. But the reason we asked him on today is because he recently completed a Spartan sprint. I believe it was a sprint. Is that correct,
Correct.
Adam?
It was a super.
A super.
Yeah.
He skipped the sprint apparently.
Super strong.
So a Spartan super, and just did that over the weekend. Pretty major accomplishment, at least from my perspective. Someone that doesn't have the intestinal fortitude to actually push himself that hard to do that. And to get to that point where he did that, he's had to change a lot of his self-talk, and that's an area that I'm really passionate about. And if I get a chance during the podcast, I'll share some of my background with self-talk. But DJ, what interests you about the Spartan Super, and Adam in particular, and the thinking that has to go into something like that?
So this is actually ironic. I just actually thought of this too. Each morning I listen to a podcast going to work. It's called Unbeatable Minds, and it's a podcast that Mark Devine does, and he's an ex-Navy SEAL. And his guest this morning was a guy named Ben Greenfield, and he actually. I'm not sure if have you guys heard of him before, Ben Greenfield?
Yeah, he's a huge fitness nutrition guy, like ridiculous.
Incredible. The way he talks so educated about nutrition and about fitness and about all these aspects around fitness and nutrition. And one of the things he had mentioned was the Spartan race. So I heard about it this morning. And so
really?
It was literally this morning, and I was like, I wonder what Spartan races are. They sound badass, like, first to start off. Like, let's just get that out of
And we got a badass with us.
And we got a badass with us. So this is
Adam Badass Morgan.
Exactly. So it's a little God's consciousness moment. Like, I heard it this morning. Now we must be in the right place. And so a Spartan, like, I've heard of like Tough Mudders before. I've heard of triathlons. My father did a ton of triathlons. I actually just got his triathlon bike, and I've even been challenging him of possibly running a triathlon with me again. And so Spartan races, what exactly is a Spartan race, Adam? Like, what does it consist of?
So it's a certain distance and a number of obstacles within that distance. So a sprint is a 3-mile or what they call a 5K with 20 obstacles. A super is a 10K, so a little over 6 miles with 25 obstacles. And then a beast is a 13-mile, so half a marathon, with 30 and sometimes more obstacles in it.
Wow.
So what
That's a lot.
you just finished the super. So you
Yep.
just finished 6 mile, 25 obstacle.
Right, 25, yeah.
So give us a sample of what some of the obstacles were.
Well, because it was a virtual race, a lot of the normal obstacles that would have been at Palmerton, where my super was supposed to be, are not there. So they broke it down to do 10 of each obstacle, and it was push-ups, sit-ups, burpees, planks, plank up downs, air squats. They were all pretty painful, so I don't remember all of them. But
so every quarter mile or something, they're putting a test in front of you then.
so the virtual, they gave you the option to, you could do it, you could break them into the run, or you could do the entire run, or you could do the obstacles first and then do the run and then do the obstacles afterwards. And that's what I chose to do, because my Spartan coach lives about a mile and a half away from me. So I drove there, and then I had mapped out a 6.25 mile route to end up at her house. And then she was really cool. She put everything out on one of her kids' chalkboards. So it's just like little 4-foot tall chalkboard, like you see the kids write on, but it had all of the obstacles out on it. And she put out a yoga mat for me. We were on our deck.
I don't know if Spartan strong guys should be using a yoga mat. I mean,
True.
I,
It's true,
I
but
don't know
actually,
about.
it's actually yoga is part of Spartan Strong. As a matter of fact, it's
As it should be. As it
it's
should
the
be.
it's the other side to it.
Gotcha.
So
So how many times in your life, Adam, have you run 6 miles like that?
I was just talking to my wife about this. The last time that I did 6 miles, and I believe it wasn't, I don't even think it was 6, I think it was 5, and I'm sure I did more than that, was boot camp. Actually, it was my son I was just talking to about this. Boot camp, and I was 19 or 20 years old. And we did, I was in the U.S. Coast Guard. Our boot camp is in Cape May, New Jersey. And we did the Cape May 5-mile as a company. And we ran it. But I remember running it with a couple fingers tucked underneath the rib because I was cramping so bad. And of course, when you're in a group of other men in the military, you're humping until they're carrying you. And this was all me by myself, nobody else running with me. It was up here.
So you've kind of never run 6 miles before.
Like distance wise, do I know I've run 6 miles? I ran plenty when I was in the Coast Guard, but like actually planned out a 6-mile run, never. This is definitely
And
the farthest
nobody was chasing you, Adam. Nobody was chasing you.
Not this time. No.
Now, what about? Now I'm curious. So the running aspect is one beast. And now, what about all those other obstacles? Do you consistently train yourself? Like, do you do push-ups and burpees and all the planks and everything consistently?
So we do. My Spartan coach trains me. The majority of my training is body weight or TRX or kettlebells, unconventional bench, legs, banging and clanging iron. The old type of stuff.
You like that? You like the difference there?
I've been a weightlifter pretty much my entire life. I played high school football. I never went to college for football or anything like that. But I've always been a big guy. So the powerlifter, weightlifter persona fit me pretty well. And I lived that life for quite a while of being a chunky guy and saying, oh, it's just muscle, it's just whatever. And, I bounced and bartended a lot when I was younger, before I grew up.
Now, are you more, do you like the body weight lifting more than a barbell or a dumbbell, something like that?
No doubt. Yeah.
No doubt.
I can tell you, I changed my body more in 30 days with 100 burpees a day challenge than I have ever changed it lifting weights.
That is awesome. Because I always had that idea, because my roommates and I challenge each other with eating and fitness and stuff. And we did a month of where we only did body weight. So we did chin-ups, push-ups. We ran and did crunches and got in some very good shape, like very good. I felt thicker, felt stronger, felt like my muscles were like tighter together. So I was always curious. And now I've always thought of like incorporating not only the body weight stuff into the actual weights and just kind of mashing it all together. So I'm happy though you said the body weight one, because I personally kind of liked the body weight one more. It was simpler.
Adam, how much weight have you lost and in what time period to get to your current fighting weight?
Well, I'm 210 now. When I started training with my coach, I was 245. The heaviest I've ever been in my life was 320, and that was when my son was born. He is 15, going to be 16.
Wow.
But I've been up and down 100 pounds at least 5 times in my life, fought with this on a constant basis. And honestly, the weight coming off thing is a good aspect. It's a good metric, but if you can look in the mirror and see whatever you want to see, because if up here all you see is, like I used to see, I wasn't fat, I was just this big guy. I was just this big muscular guy, but I wasn't that muscular, I was fat. And I'm still not where I want to be looking in the mirror, but I know looking in the mirror every day, it's another opportunity for me to have an excellent day, another opportunity for me to live the best life that I can live and put forth effort to that goal.
That's awesome.
It's a
Yeah,
great way
that's
to
fair.
live. It's a great way to live.
Now you know, we had a discussion not too long ago with DJ and one of his friends, Adam, that they had gone to a plant-based diet and that they felt a lot more energy and all this stuff. And I thought that was interesting. So I've toyed around a little bit with taking meat out of my life, and I'm eating tofu nuggets now, and they're actually pretty good. But you said something to me this week in a text or an email that I really I didn't follow up with you on, but
Okay.
I thought was fascinating. And you don't look at food the same way.
No.
You said something that food doesn't
Pumpkin
hold.
pie.
Pardon?
It was pumpkin pie.
That's what it was. Yeah.
We had talked about not eating your dessert before you've
Right. Don't eat dinner before you eat dessert.
Right.
So do your work before
basically
you
work
get your
hard
reward.
before you reward yourself and work towards a reward. Pumpkin pie used to be my all-time favorite dessert. That and my mama's lasagna are like my two number one things. So this week after the super, I took a couple days off, which they recommend you do, and I was a little sore. And I went to the grocery store to get some meat for the week, and they had pies for 99, pumpkin pies for 99 cents. And it's a small grocery store, so I think they just had extras and they were putting them out type of thing. So I said, you know what the heck? I'll just cut a piece off. I'll throw the rest away, 99 cents. I'm not wasting nothing. And put some Cool Whip on that bad boy and took a couple bites, and I was like, this is not what I remember.
Wow.
And it really is that. What is this doing for me? Putting this in my body, is this reward per se worth the toll of whatever I have to do to get that off me the next day? Plus, now the way that I eat now, I feel terrible. My wife is a terrific baker. God bless her. She's raised in Kansas, farm girl, and she can bake her little tush off. I tell you what. And she makes some terrific stuff. And she just made some cookies the other day. I ate 2 of those cookies like an idiot, and I felt terrible. They were really good, don't get me wrong, but I felt terrible afterwards, literally, because my body just is not used to all that sugar. And she had peanut butter and oats and whatever else in there. And she even used half and half because she knew, I do keto mostly. And still, I just regretted it. I just...
DJ, have you had similar experience? I don't eat as clean as you guys, so I don't have that challenge right now. But DJ, have you had that experience as well?
Yes, 100%. And actually, it's funny you said that. Probably about 2 weeks ago, it was a Sunday evening, and one of my roommate's moms stopped by and she said, "Hey, I made you guys some cookies."
Oh.
And her cooking is just like your wife's, phenomenal. I mean, I grew up with my best friend and his mom cooking us food all the time. She said, "I got cookies for you." And my roommate said, "Nope, we don't want them. You can take them and leave, Mom." And so we were kind of sitting there like, well, she made the cookies for us. I mean, is it disrespectful to just shoo your mom away? So we kind of felt, I think it was a guilt. We felt a little bit of a guilt in us. And so we ended up bringing the cookies into the house, and we said, all right, put them in the freezer. Maybe we'll forget about them. Well, safe to say we did not forget about them.
Mm-hmm.
We ate all of them that night. There was probably about 10 of them. Wow. And we ate one, and I was like, this is pretty good. And we just kept eating them. We each probably had like 4 or 5. And I even said, I said, you guys realize how bad we're going to feel after this. Like, you realize that it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks, and it did. You feel sick to your stomach. You feel nasty. It's just like Adam says, because your body isn't used to that avalanche of sugar, over swaying your whole body. So I've definitely had that experience, and it totally makes you not want to eat. It makes you want to continue to eat healthy, which is kind of cool. It's like, if
I'm sure proud of both you guys for getting to the point where that's actually a problem for you.
Yeah.
I'm not challenged like that quite yet. So Adam, back in 2007, 2008, I had a challenge where I came home from a trip and my wife said to me, look, you need to go get some help. I said, what do you mean go get some help? And she goes, look, you used to walk into a room and think you owned the room. Didn't mean you did, didn't mean you didn't, but you thought you did. And she said, guys wanted to be like you, girls wanted to be with you. I was like, I was one of those girls. You're not that guy. Like, holy shit. So at that point, I knew I was in some self-talk spirals, but I didn't quite get the gravity of it. So I went to a counselor, and a counselor talked to me and said, well, who's telling you you're a bad father? Who's telling you you're a bad husband? Who's telling you you're bad at work? Who's telling you you're bad at your fitness? Who's telling you this? Who's telling you that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, no, what's the documentation? What's the objective evidence that you're bad at all these things? And I looked at her. I literally said this. I go, get the fuck out of here. She said, what? And I said, I talked myself into being bad at all this stuff. And she said, yes. So I would imagine that to finish a Spartan Super, your self-talk couldn't have been like that. It had to be pretty squared away, right? I mean, there's got to be times in 6 miles that you want to quit, or times when you train that you don't want to do it. How do you get through that?
First of all, yes, there was several hills. I did not plan my route really well. I went uphill into the sun, started at 6:30 in the morning. So I went into the upcoming sun. Yeah. And there was a few times where the negative self-talk came in and said, you don't have to do this. Ain't nobody watching you. Your wife knows and your Spartan coach knows, but whatever, they'll support you either way. And they're very supportive. They're very good. But this was a promise to me. And that there's several self-help gurus around, people that I watch on a regular basis. Ed Milet is one of them, who preaches this one mantra: you make a promise to yourself every morning. If you don't keep that promise to yourself, what do you have for the rest of the day? So the Spartan Super was definitely a goal for me, but that morning my goal was get up, get dressed. I laid everything out. I made sure my plan was there, and get going. And as long as you put one foot in front of the other, just keep going. I had no time limit. I had no expectation of anything but to finish, and yeah, to finish. It was my only thing. So I'm not sure if that answers your question per se, but
there had to be times in the 6 miles,
yeah,
where you're like, man, I want to walk for a little bit, or I just want to sit down for a little bit, and you didn't. So what do you say to yourself in those moments to push you through?
my mantra is just keep going. It's just that simple. And it really is, it's that simple in life. Just keep going.
Is that how you approach your training as well? Like getting up every morning and making, because I mean, you don't run 6 miles without doing some training ahead of time, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah. Get up and get going. Don't put another thing that a lot of the people that I watch YouTube, virtual mentors, as it were, don't touch your phone for the first hour. So don't get sidetracked. Don't get your day hijacked. Don't say stupid shit to yourself, Trevor Moab. Just keep going. Nothing else matters. Keep your word to yourself and keep going. And if there's anybody that I am more concerned about now disappointing, and I've had plenty of people in my life that I've disappointed and have been disappointed by, is me. I got to look myself in the mirror every day. I got to be accountable to me every day. I've got words on my mirror. Mantras on my mirror. Is this the best? Is this be the best that you can be? Be Spartan strong, and is this serving your goal or serving your needs? And it's a choice. And there's a lot of easy choices to make in life, and there's a lot of hard choices that if you make those hard choices and suffer through, on the other side of that is the good stuff.
Completely.
DJ, how much of that do you resonate with?
Oh my God, that was beautiful. That was that was exactly. I mean, everything that you just said is all content that I personally try to feed myself. You know, you mentioned Trevor Moawad. Don't feed yourself stupid shit. Things along those lines. I mean, Scott and I have talked religiously about neutral thinking, and
Awesome.
and you mentioned it. Really, just keep going is a neutral statement. I don't know if it's going to be good if I keep going. I don't know if it's going to be bad if I keep going. But the fact of the matter is that I am keeping going. That's the important part. And I think of the story of Marcus Luttrell when he just drew the line in the sand, crawled to that line, and did that for 7 miles with compound fractures and saved his life. All his goal was just to get to that line. It was extremely neutral. So as simple as it sounds, I've heard this a lot in my work, keep it as simple as possible. People like simplicity. Just keep going. It sounds simple. It sounds simple until you actually start to do it. I think about like what Cody said with, are we all just built to sleep in our warm beds in the morning? Are we all just built to sleep in? And that's why I said, screw it. I want to wake up at 4:50 in the morning and go run hills at Cobb's Hill until I feel like I'm going to throw up, and then ride my bike home. There's a reason that we do that. It's because we want to keep going. And all of that is on our path, on our goals. It's what we really want. It's what we really desire.
Adam, you mentioned virtual mentors. What did you mean by that?
So there's a very common phrase that folks know: you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang around with, your group, your social group. So interestingly enough, I don't hang around with a bunch of folk on a normal basis. I try not to listen to a lot of negative talk, period. And I find that a lot of the people that I associate with or whatever are negative. So I've tried to distance myself from that stuff. And after 21 years in prison, I know what negative sounds like real quick. So I watch YouTube videos. I got turned on to Tom Bilyeu, Impact Theory, who is a guy that one of the founders of Quest, who came from nothing. And through him, I've been introduced to a lot of other guys, Ed Milet, another Navy SEAL, David Goggins, Rich Roll. But the virtual part of it is I don't know these people, and nor do I really have to know them, but they provide guidance and they provide support and they provide Trevor Moawad with stop saying stupid shit and neutral thinking, provide a pathway to the next level. So a lot of the things that I say, a lot of the things that I've learned are things that they have taught me. And I don't necessarily need to be in the same room with them, just the way that we're doing this right now, to learn from them, to be able to take down what they're saying and incorporate that into my life to live a better life.
That's spectacular. You shared. I've learned, like, I never watched Ed Milet until I started talking to you more. So Ed Milet's someone I'm starting to get familiar with. Very impressive guy. Really, really strong mindset. You also said something around the virtual people. So, I mean, it's a great point. Do you get in your car? When you get in your car, are you using that time also to educate yourself?
Always.
So you're using all your commute time to feed your mind, not necessarily listen to music, but actually feed your mind what?
Educational, positive, educational stuff. So Tom Bilyeu does Impact Theory, which is a 30 to 45 minute thing where he interviews somebody and he lets that person do the majority of the talking, and then does these other things called conversations with Tom, where he has a lot more exchange with the person. And those are like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I was listening to one of those today on a guy who, and I apologize, I can see his face, but I can't remember his name. And I try not to look too much because I'm driving, but I'm listening.
Good decision.
Right. Yeah. Well, but he is another self-help guy who turns people around really quickly, and he was actually talking about Beyonce and Sasha Fierce, and how Beyonce was a gospel singer in a church, shy, beautiful. No doubt anybody would think she's beautiful even at 15, but had to a relative, and I want to say father, but I'm not positive if it was a father or an uncle, took her and put her into a group because he recognized her talent. And the group was a provocative dancing, sexier talk, provocative songs, I should say. But they also danced. And she had to, in her own words, create another persona to be able to do that and still be able to come back to the church person that she was. And she created this persona called Sasha Fierce. And I thought that was really interesting how we talk ourselves into this is me. This is the church singer, 15-year-old, good little girl. People come to hear me in the church choir, but to be able to take that talent and put it out to something that she could make money at, and I don't know that was her motivation to begin with, mind you, but to be marketable but still enjoy it. She had to develop that other persona just to get herself out of there.
So what persona do you lean into? What is do you have a persona you lean into?
My persona, I don't have an alter ego type of thing, because I lived that for 21 years in prison. And when I retired as a correctional lieutenant, so I was supervising officers who were supervising inmates. So I had a different persona per se the last 7.5 to 8 years of my career than I did the first. But the negative vibe in prison will erode your soul. And when I got out of prison, I made sure that I'm never going to put a uniform on again. I'm never going to wear another badge. That was what I promised myself. And that was me in myself, knowing I had put so much into that's I needed to do that. So I went into the medical field instead, and found a lot of joy in that. But we'd recently talked about this. I found, if there's any persona I have, it's to be of service.
I think Spartan Strong is also a persona for you.
Okay.
Like, I think that's I've seen that show up in our conversations in the past.
Okay.
DJ, what about you?
Do
you have maybe not an alter ego, but do you have something that something similar to the libraries and weight rooms that you?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. The book that I'm reading right now, Psycho-Cybernetics, that deals with your self-image, essentially. It deals with what you think of yourself, which I think is it's something that, I saw somebody say once, one of my good buddies said, everybody else has a opinion of you. So it's not necessary. You can do whatever you want, and they will then create their opinion of you. And then, but the most important opinion out of everybody's is the one that you think of yourself. So what is your self-image? And I do have a big persona, or as we like to call it, a personal culture of libraries and weight rooms, which is both, loving mental growth as well as physical growth. But I think the overall persona of progress is something that I'm extremely, I'm in love with almost. I'm addicted to it. I love the feeling of just a small improvement, whether it's 1 pound or whether it's 40 pounds. And it necessarily doesn't even have to be weightlifting. It can be anything. And I think it really just comes from what my father said with making measurable progress over reasonable time. It was, the simple saying of him saying, now, DJ, how long are you supposed to be in first grade? And me sitting there saying, a year? And he said, good. He said, that's the answer. He said, you're supposed to be in there for 1 year. He said, that's the amount of progress you need to make in 1 year. So the next year you do it again. And, it was that simple aspect of, we start at point A and we have to get to point B somehow. And then we have to get to point C. And eventually we end up at Z. And, those points along the line, that is all small increments of progress. And sometimes we won't make progress and it hurts. But it's up to us to figure out, all right, why didn't we? And how can we solve that so it doesn't happen again? So that's something that's really a persona of me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Adam, in order to accomplish the Spartan Super, you obviously had to have some pretty strong self-talk and messaging. At the same time, I would imagine you slip occasionally, and you don't always speak kindly to yourself. How do you get yourself out of that? And are you kind to yourself when you slip, or are you hard on yourself? Like, what is your process to snap you back to being Spartan strong?
Yeah, definitely not kind to myself. Definitely very hard on myself. I find myself, I get a tightness in my chest and in my shoulders when I get angry or when I get anxious or when I have that issue where I'm not being kind to myself, and
Wow.
the negative self-talk starts spinning. And I can feel that. I can start to feel like the welling up of the anger, and anger is and unfortunately, anger served me well in the prison system. It does not serve me well now, but I can feel it. I can feel it coming.
Wow.
And if my wife is not near me to give me a smack and tell me, hey, you're being a dickhead, I usually step back, physically step back, and get out of the micro and get into the macro. So let's take a bigger look at what's going on. Instead of just narrow tunnel vision of what you're seeing, what's pissing you off is just like what DJ said. This is your perception of this, and is this really what's going on?
Yeah.
Right. It's your right. That's a good point. It's your label of the event, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of
that's
like
awesome.
That always like reminds me of, like, say you have like a boss or some coworker who's might not necessarily be treating you that well, and it's always like, well, is it something that I'm doing, or possibly there's something at home that might be pissing them off really, and you just happen to be taking the blunt force of it. And that's something that I think after becoming more involved with Takers of Diamonds, I've thought much more about, because I remember being in sports, coaches would talk around you, and you're like, oh, I wonder if he's talking about me. I wonder if did I do this play right, whatever it may be. Now it's like, if you are talking about me, good. If you're not, good. It's the same. I have my perception of myself, and hopefully your perception of me is in a positive way. But at the end of the day, your battles that you might internally be battling, they might get taken out on me, and I need to understand that, and I need to be aware of that. So I think it's kind of a kindness level too that we all need to possess, just to be aware of it.
Yeah, I suffered from approval addiction for a while there too. Well, I still do, I guess, occasionally, caring about what people think about me, right? And then I heard somebody say, it's none of my business what you think about me, right? And it's not. And it puts me back into the most important opinion about me is mine,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I have to use your words, Adam, that you used today. I have to use thoughts that empower me and serve me well. And I have to be aware enough to say, okay, that thought isn't serving me well, and stop it. Stop saying stupid shit to myself, right? And start saying things that serve me well. There's a lot of mental gymnastics, I think, to becoming the highest performer we can become. Guys, we're a little over half an hour. This is typically where we like to cut. What, DJ, do you have any additional questions for Adam? And Adam, do you have any additional observations you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, Adam, I want to say thank you for being a good role model of the Spartan race. I think that's, I think anybody who, like, you don't need to run the Spartan race. I think that's the really, the important and the cool part about it is, people don't need to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go work out. We don't need to eat healthy. We don't need to do any of this, but we choose to do it. We make the choice because we know that when we know completing tasks that suck, and when we know fighting through the shit, that there's good stuff on the other side, we do that on purpose. You take cold showers on purpose. You don't accidentally say, oh, the shower turned cold and I might as well just stay in here. So I think that's an important lesson that we can kind of conclude from today is, our self-talk, we're doing this on purpose. We're doing this to create a improvement and progress and to make ourselves better and to achieve the goals and desires that we want. I mean, how cool of a life does that sound? I have a goal or a desire and I'm going to go figure out how to get it. It's that simple. Just keep going, as Adam would say.
Anything else, Adam?
Yeah, a little bit to touch on there. It's not been too long for me that I've made this turn to stop. I made the decision to stop photocopying my life and to improve. I just turned 53 last month, and one of my goals is to be more physically fit. And I find that if I do slip and I don't work out, if I don't keep that promise to myself, I feel just as bad as I do if I ate my wife's cookies. And I know that sucks, and I know that I disappointed myself. So I keep my word to myself pretty much all the time. I make mistakes like everybody else does. But the Spartan races have anchored me in a goal. And I feel that a physical pursuit is a good measure for me to begin with, but it's also helping me mentally as well. And it's something that I didn't expect, but it's something that's definitely taken a hold. And that if someone says, this is the last thing, if you ask somebody to do something and they say, I can't, the first words that I used to not think about, but now I do is, you're absolutely right. You can't. Until you tell me you can, you can't.
Yes.
And I always used to say, I can't do that. I can't run a mile. I'm too fat. I'm too old. I'm too this, I'm too that. But I'm not anymore. And I'm going to keep going until I do what I want to do. And then I'm going to keep going to something else because I can. And as long as you say I can, as long as you keep an open mind to the possibilities of the future and stop shutting yourself down, stop photocopying your life, stop believing negative self-talk and the stupid shit that you're telling yourself or that you're listening to somebody else tell you, your life's going to suck.
Adam, that was an absolutely awesome conclusion to today's episode. So thank you very much, Acres of Diamonds audience, podcast number 13. When is your next Spartan race?
Right now, we're hoping for Charlton in August, as long as things keep progressing in the state of Massachusetts keeps opening up. And then
Awesome.
the Beast will be in September.
Nice.
Well, good luck.
Peace.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep up the positive self-talk. Sounds like you're going to need it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Adam. Thank you, DJ.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.